Let's talk about the eye in three-quarter view. All right. So I've been waiting such a long time for this to finally be completed because it is, an artist tool and a teacher's tool. And let's talk a little bit about stacking. So one rule of depth is sorry about the humming of my computer. It goes crazy whenever, like my graphics card just goes boom whenever I do anything like that requires a lot, like Portrait Studio requires a lot, I think, at least for me. So uh, sorry about that. Got to turn off the phone. When eyes stack, what happens is your knowledge of stacking gets tested. So your knowledge and understanding of depth gets tested. So what happens is that you have to show that some way, somehow, that in that one eye in the distance, there has other matter has come in the way. Other matter has gotten in the way. So when we rotate this eye, by the way, we disabled. We added a disable or enable tablet mode, so you guys can use that. But sorry about the banding. Um, when eyes enter a three-quarter view, let's add some hooded eye to it. So the eye hood, meaning extra fat at the top of the eye. So this really will help illustrate what happens when eyes are in three-quarter view. So I've been dying to use this. Let's move this one over this way, and this one down this way. No. I'm just trying to find the perfect lighting so we can see. But hooded eyes do cause shadows, so let me just find the perfect setup. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Thank you. When we have eyes that are hooded, which is the perfect example really, and we want to throw an eye into three-quarter view, do you see how this bit right here gets in the way of the eye and the nose gets in the way of the corner of the eye that we don't see? So there are different degrees of three-quarter view. There's extreme three-quarter view, when we're starting to see more of the side view of the face instead of the other half of the face. So we're starting to enter the side view of the face completely, just like this. So three-quarter view, extreme three-quarter view is almost, you're starting to see the side view. But in a more delicate three-quarter view like this one, which is really pretty for portraiture, what happens is there is a little bit of stacking that gets in the way that confuses people. And this bit right here is where that stacking happens. So this isn't always visible because the eyes aren't always hooded. So if we bring the hood down, what does happen though, the trace of stacking, is that the inner eyelid line, so right here, this inner eyelid line, do you see how the crease? How it starts to compress, how it starts to come together a little bit closer until it's almost completely gone. Alright, and it gets hidden by the nose. That's what I want to show about three-quarter view eyes. A lot of you draw three-quarter view eyes just like this, just like front view, but that's not what happens. The eye gets less wide because there's more space. This space right here, that's this little bit right here that's visible. So if you do want to practice eyes, and like I always say, eyes carry the portrait. They're the most beautiful thing about a portrait. What you have to start doing is practicing eye in three-quarter view because it'll really test your function, understanding of function when it comes to the eye, understanding the eye's function. Okay, so let's take that into these critiques. Let's see if everyone is doing that. So what we saw just now, let's try to apply that to this critique. So let me turn on RGB. Okay. Let me get my red marker. And let's start talking. When we saw that eye, did you guys notice there was no sort of distortion on the horizontal? The eyes were still in the same level. I don't want to open it up again because it'll destroy my Photoshop, but this doesn't change when we rotate the eye. These lines stay on the same size. So this means that your eyes right now are asymmetrical. This eye needs to come down here. So this eye is smaller than this eye. Eyes do not foreshorten and shrink in size in three-quarter view. They only decrease in width. That's all they do. Eyes do not do this in three-quarter view. This is wrong. Everyone write that back to me. Eyes do not shrink in three-quarter view. All they do is compress. They do shrink if the camera was over here, really close to his head. And this distance, somehow, if it got through the nose, or if it's at right here at this angle, or the camera was right here beside its head, his head, this eye would seem a little bit smaller because of foreshortening. There is so much distance here because the camera is close by, but this camera is too distant. This is, you know, a foot away, this is a foot away, this is a foot away. They're really similar in distance from the camera. So there isn't going to be any foreshortening. Foreshortening happens when there's a significant distance between the two objects, the two extremes. So there's foreshortening if someone was sitting down, like sitting down on a chair or a bench, or not really, like let's say a flat surface like a bed, and they were sticking their foot at the camera. This foot would be as large or larger than the head size because this is really close to the camera. So foreshortening, if it has anything to do with anything, it has to do with the viewer and the closeness to him. Foreshortening doesn't happen just like that because of perspective. Foreshortening happens, perspective happens in foreshortening, but foreshortening happens when the camera is close up. When there is a person who is close to the object, or the camera is close, but whatever's seeing the object. Alright? So please do not shrink your eyes in 3/4 view. Alright? All you have to do is make them less wide. So what happens to eyes in 3/4 view? So I'm going to just, because he's masculine, so what I'm going to do, instead of raising this one, I'm just going to shrink this one. Sorry, sometimes Liquify goes rogue. Okay. So I'm just trying to balance the two corners. These two corners stay symmetrical. Everything stays symmetrical. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the lips. The lips also need symmetry, so they do not lose their symmetry. If one eye is higher or lower than the other, the lips will, you will accidentally do that to the rest of the features on the face. Okay, so I'm not touching the style, I'm not touching anything other than the size of the eyes. And let me show you before. It was very, very large. Okay, so for the cheekbones, one becomes less wide horizontally. Excellent. Tiv gets a sticker. Okay, so right here what you're showing me, you see this jagged line, this like really sharp line in the bone structure. What happens is that when we're showing off that the shadows of the face are capable of this sharp a line, we're saying that the bone structure is really strong. But suddenly, when you guys do 3/4 view, all of a sudden, you guys shave off. What happened? You guys shave off the structure that you built on one side when you enter the outline of it, and that's what proves to me that you guys don't yet know how to rotate. Rotating a three-dimensional object in your mind means that you get the fact that it's three-dimensional and that it has different signatures that are visible in the way it's sculpted when you see it from a different angle. So what I mean by that is, let me open this up again. So excited to use this, finally. There's always updates. Launch. Okay. Alright, so let's load that again. No. Load file. Female. Still figuring my way around, sorry. Alright. So, when we move in, and let's look at the face from the side. Let's go up. And let's make this jawline of hers really, really sharp, really strong. So female and cheek size, I guess that's the one. And then raise that cheek height really high. And then the cheek fat, bring that down all the way. So we're kind of creating what he had on his face right here. Alright, so you see that sharpness here that becomes visible. The light is very off, so I have to just, here, let me just save this. The light is a bit off, so I'm just going to raise the light upward to the side. It's going to get dark because it's realistic light, so I'm going to need a diffuse shadow. We will be adding universal shadow soon. Oh, down you go. There we go. That's perfect. See this sharp shadow right here? This is the remnant of the core shadow that happens from the primary. Let's make this one a little less strong. If we cut this one down all the way, instead of diffusing, what happens, it doesn't diffuse anymore, so we see that sharpness. And that's very, very similar to what you have here. So this happens as we see here, only when the cheekbone is jutted out enough. When we lower that cheekbone again, let me just raise this up a little bit. When we lower that cheekbone again, so let's raise that cheek fat. So her cheek becomes a little more fatty. And let's lower that cheekbone and kind of just ease up on that. It has a very straight line. It has less of a curved line. So the curve that you do here is the same exact, it's like the reflection, it's like a mirror reflection of the same curve you do here. Just remember that this line is a reflection of this line, and this is what I mean by rotation. It becomes very, sorry about my computer, it becomes very difficult for you to rotate a three-dimensional object. So these shadows aren't symmetrical. But when you draw a face like this, and you're really good at drawing a face like this, the challenge becomes when can you still draw the same face in this angle? Do you realize that the shadows in the cheeks that you're drawing, the shadows in the cheeks that you're painting, do you realize what they look like in a cross-section version of them? And that's why, in order to be a better artist, essentially, is you have to start thinking about the rotation of a cube, which essentially is what this is. It has a side, it has a front, and it has another side. So when you know about that, you know about its cube quality, you know about the z-axis, then you can rotate this cube in an open space. This is why I say paint as if it's a three-dimensional world, it's a three-dimensional box, not as if it's a flat image. That's the point of all of this. That's the point of knowing about the cube. So I've been teaching this for a really long time without Portrait Studio, but now thank God I have it because I can really show, instead of drawing my stupid diagrams, I can really show what I'm talking about. So when you do three-quarter view, the eye experiences compression, the whole face experiences compression, and now all of a sudden the face that we memorized and loved, all that we've been drawing front view this whole time, we are now tested on. And we have to draw it as if it's wrapped around a three-dimensional object. A lot of you, like I see in the community right now, are doing 14-day challenges, and the 14-day challenges look like unwrapping. After you do the 3D model, you have to like unwrap it and paint over it so it looks a little bit more realistic. So right here, this looks unwrapped. It doesn't feel like it's filled on top of or wrapped like a wrapping paper on top of a cube. So let's look at what unwrapping looks like. 3D modeling. Unwrapped, I already searched it before. Images. So where is it? So this is what it feels like sometimes when you guys paint your faces. They feel really flat. So forget that. Alright, let me find another one because I'm just gonna laugh my ass off. Alright, like right here. You guys don't paint. So this belongs to this. But you guys don't paint it as if it's gonna rotate. You see how these lines right here compress? How these squares get less and less square and more rectangular as they hit the edge. So this is what you guys do. You guys don't do this. You guys don't compress along a cube. You guys paint it as if it's the same cube size all around, as if we're seeing front view like a flat version of the Earth. Like, you ever seen the Earth unwrapped in a map? Looks very similar to this because it's no longer wrapped around a three-dimensional object. Okay? Does everyone get what I'm saying? The app is available for download on Selfie or on Istebrak.com. I haven't linked Selfie yet, but it's available here on the store. If you can only pay with PayPal, it's available on Selfie. Let me just link that real quick. But do you see what I mean? You guys don't paint on a cube. You guys do your 14-day challenges and you do them as if they're unwrapped. It feels unwrapped. It doesn't feel like this is where the face turns off into the quarters, where it sort of becomes separate from the front view, and the side view becomes separate from each other. So right here, you see this line, this trace right here? This is the side view. So paint as if you're painting the face on a cube. Sculpt the face. Don't just throw it, when you guys paint your front views, don't just throw it and think that you'll just, it'll read. If you really want to push and you really want to take your art somewhere really, really advanced when it comes to sculpting and being able to draw a face that looks like the same face from all quarters, and really just testing your thorough skill, like having a thorough skill, learning a thorough skill that you're very experienced with, understanding and learning the portraiture thoroughly. that's what you have to start doing. You have to start wrapping the face around the cube. The skeleton isn't flat. We aren't just pieces of paper walking around the earth. We're cubes. So right here, it feels very unwrapped. Right here, very, very unwrapped. It feels like this is just waiting to be taken into the 3D modeler for post-production or something. After you draw on the scars and the blood. That's kind of what they do, what they did with the Matrix. They kind of unwrapped the the actor's face and then wrapped it again around a model. So freaky. That's pretty much what happened. So stop painting as if it is unwrapped. Stop painting your front views as if this one doesn't feel so unwrapped because look at this. The person faded the shadow to the sides. It feels compressed on either side. It feels like there's another side to it, but still, it still feels a little bit unwrapped because this eye doesn't seem to be experiencing the cube on the side of the face. Alright, so it kind of deviated away from eyes. Is why I'm so careful about choosing a theme when I have too many pieces to look at, but very, very unwrapped. Alright, so don't forget about the cube and rotation. Oh, that's where we deviated, rotation and eyes. But yeah, before, after. These changes are made. These mistakes aren't even made if you invest enough time, thinking about the face and how it rotates. All right? So you avoid mistakes like these that get in the way of the likeness, get in the way of the character, tiny little remnants. And these kinds of mistakes right here, these are what's left over when you become advanced. You don't escape these very easily. Not at all. They stay. I still have these issues. I actually have a painting that I deleted from my gallery recently. I hated it because that's exactly what I did. It felt like an unwrapped face in 3/4 view, and I didn't even try to do compression. There was no one piece in front of the other. I deliberately made the nose smaller so I wouldn't have to deal with compression. It was terrible. I was such a noob. That was such a noob thing of me to do, especially because I was teaching and I was so mad at myself. After seeing it after a year or two, I think I drew it 2 years ago, I was really mad at myself. Because at the time I was teaching people 3/4 view, and I just didn't see it. It's crazy when and you can guess when I started doing 3D form studies. I started doing form studies 2 or 3 years ago, or a little after actually, a little after, a little before. How do you say it? Less than 2 years ago. So as soon as I started doing form studies, that's when my images started changing. The way I paint started to change. I started to think, okay, then there's the nose. What comes right before the eye that's between the eye and the nose? That's extra fat above the eye. What's behind the nose that I'm no longer seeing? And that's what you don't paint. Is the nose really, does it really have a line? Do I really have to throw that line in there? So that's where this next question comes in. It makes you make choices like these more confidently, completely getting rid of that. You don't need it. What do you replace it with? You replace it with the top of the cube right here. You replace it with an extra shade for the top of the nose because he's got quite a large nose. And then because of course our faces are not geometric, so they do have curvature to them. And then you just ease that up. And then find the trace of that same light everywhere else and what it's doing to the rest of the face. So maybe the front, because look at how his cheeks, they're so strong, they're so pronounced. Maybe the tops of the cheeks here get a little bit of light. And the very tops of his lip, the upper lip. And then the top of the forehead. All of that stuff you benefit from it while doing form studies. Luckily, we're going to be, our amazing modeler, has modeled us form studies that we'll be throwing into Portrait Studio. So if you want to do form studies, but you really don't know how to draw the form studies, like you don't know what shape to draw, we're going to have pre-made ones for you that you can use. And for those who are worried about not knowing what the functions are, like which keys to use in Portrait Studio, we'll be uploading a PDF soon on all the functions, a list of the functions. So sorry we haven't uploaded it yet. We're working as fast as we can. But there was so many stuff to do, like promo videos and stuff, so I haven't gotten around to completing that list and uploading it as a PDF that you can download with the program or have available on the website. And if you do have any issues with it, if there are any bugs, this is like basically release number 1, so this is version 1. If you guys have any bugs at all, please report them. It'll really help us, and usually we get them fixed within the hour. Our programmer is amazing. All right, so before, after, before, after. And if your style was to remove like cell shading to remove one set of shades, so if you don't want to use all these highlights, you don't have to. You don't have to indicate all that much about heights, but as long as the face is proportionate, let me just, actually I want to keep the one on the nose. It's actually really important. But look at how much the face has changed. It reads better. It feels like I can rotate this face. If I rotated the face you had before, one half, like I wish I can asymmetrically adjust blend shapes on Portrait Studio, but it doesn't allow that. One side of the face would have been like this, and the other side would have had that cheekbone, just like that. So you have to remember, when you rotate the three-quarter view, you have to indicate the same symmetrical bone structure on either side. And when it comes to eyes, please remember to stack. There is a bit of fat here and there between the eyes. So where does that happen? That happens right here. So this eye is a little bit wide, but again, it's very stylized face, so you can break some of those rules. I'm not going to make it like scientifically accurate face. All I want to see is that this here starts to compress just a little bit. You're seeing a little bit more of this fat right here than this. This comes before it. So it's 1, 2, and 3, and this is the furthest away from us, so we see a little bit of fat in the way, even if he doesn't have a hooded eye. After a while, it becomes bone structure that causes that. So these are the tiny nuances that are elusive, especially as you get better and better at drawing. It becomes harder and harder to improve because your umbrella of improvement is significantly decreased. You've already learned so much. That final little push, that final little step is very elusive and very difficult to make. It's hard to find exactly where you're making mistakes. And most surely, all the time, and it's because of my private practice and the experience I have with students, I can tell you this. And you can quote me on it. It always has to do with rotation. I have some of the most amazing artists you've ever seen as students, and they all had the same problem. Some of them have gotten over it, and I'm so proud of them. And some still have a problem with rotation. But the ones that have improved started realizing when the face rotates, bits get in front of each other. And that's what you have to remember to draw. And that's why eyes never really look right until you really do that. Okay? So before, after. This eye was really large. Be careful. Be careful of the lines you're starting with. If you don't want to make this mistake at all and you're still working on rotation and perfecting the way you rotate, be careful of this when you're doing the sketches, the early sketches. Make sure that, let's say you just sketch something real quick and you want to take it into a painting. All right? Before you do this, look at how, like this was a really quick sketch. This is probably how I sketch. But before I do anything, if I know this is level with the camera, a little bit below or above the camera, I try to level this. Look at how high this lower eyelid is than this. It's so easy to make this mistake. Okay, so there's a significant lag today. There is some serious lag. You guys I'm looking at the screen and you guys are just seeing me rotate the face, so there's like a 3-minute lag. I'm not sure why. I'll try to fix it. But yeah, always remember to level these. Always remember to level them. Okay. And that's it. I'll save this one, and if you want it back, you can message me on Facebook. I always send the copies back to those who submitted. Okay, so I was going to talk about eyes just a little bit because I have the models now and I can talk about them. When you guys draw eyes, there are different types of eyes, and you just have to identify what kind of eye you're drawing. If you accidentally stumble upon a reference that has a hooded eye, but your visual library has a non-hooded eye, so what you remember is really 3-minute lag. Oh, I don't think so. I think the video was just, whoa, the video was it wasn't updated. Oh, okay. So you guys are up to date with me, like just like like 30 seconds lag, I think. No, what I was seeing was me in Portrait Studio that happened like 5 minutes ago. I was just seeing that. Then I refreshed the page and it got fixed. Sorry guys, never mind. I was really worried. I was like, damn. All right. So the question is, what kind of eye do I have memorized in my visual library? And this goes for anything. What kind of nose have I memorized in my visual library? Most of the time you guys have memorized that dainty, basic, nondescript nose. And when you come upon eyes that are very particular, unique, that have very unique features to them, you don't know what to do with it. You don't know how to read it. So when you have eyes that are hooded, so what you're telling me right now is this eye is hooded. Why? Because there's this little highlight right here that's telling the story of a hooded eye. And what needs to happen is that this needs to catch a little bit more light, because from the side, this eye would look like this. So you'd have the eyeball, and then you'd have the fat, and then you'd have the, oh see, no, and then you'd have the lashes. So this is from this side. If the eye was from the side, you'd have this fat. Always remember the grid lines, all right? If there's even a little bit of light touching this, and this is the fat, I'm not talking about brow bone. Brow bone's way up here. I'm talking about this fat right here that no longer, some people don't have this. Some people have just a nice clean crease, right? But then some people have this really, really difficult to paint, difficult to memorize eye hood. And that's what you have to remember. What kind of eye am I drawing? Am I looking at, do I have a hooded eye in my visual library that I've memorized? Ossie, get down. I'm sorry, Ossie's just being lonely. Say meow. Say meow. Go. Say hi to everybody. Okay, she's not going to say hi. This crease is usually what we've memorized. You know, drawing the eye typically from anime years or cartooning, we just throw this little crease on. And that's what we memorized. And we don't know what to do when we come upon an eye like this. So, the hooded eye you had a really strong hood on this eye. And the issue I had with it is you still have this crease, this really strong crease. What you have to show this crease as, you have to get rid of that line. But how do you get rid of it? You basically carry this shadow all the way down. You have to show that it's not a crease, it's one bit of fat above another bit of fat. So that's the hood and that's the eye lid right here, and that's the little bit, and that's where that line was. A crease actually looks like that, and then you've got the lashes, right? So these are the lashes and this is the eyeball. So when there's a bit of fat hanging over, what happens is that we don't really see the crease, it's off screen. What we do see is this slow descent, this shadow. But on a crease, we see the crease, which is the sharp line that you're supposed to paint, and the descent shadow, the shadow of it descending slowly into that, from that hill to that valley. Right? So when you're painting that crease in, remember that it's not going to be a line and then you're off, you're off the hook, you're done. That's not how it works. You have to slowly descend into that. And then you have to have a high point as well. So I'm slowly painting in that high point. And I have to map it out. So if I'm painting this like early stages, first 5 minutes, does anyone else here when they talk suddenly are fighting a burp? I'm so sorry, it's so vulgar of me. But I'm always fighting a burp. I don't know why. I don't know why. I drink too much tea. I think it's because like the tea is hot and stuff. I'm sorry. I'm always like I'm being choked by an incoming burp. I'm so sorry. I'm so gross. But yeah, map it out. When you have your brush really large, just map it out. Hill, valley, hill. You've got all these details. Look at this. This is what I say. You enter that terrible place where you have all these details you have to paint over. This right here, these lines are really essential. This divides into sub-shadows right here. Maybe I should stop drinking tea before class. I'm so gross. You're all like, oh, God. Just bear it. It's a free class. It's just deal with it. All right, so when we hit the very bottoms of that, when we hit the very end, oh, I see. Oh my God. Big fat baby. She's planting her big fat butt on my keyboard. When we've reached the very end of this, the inner crease, the deepest part of that valley, that's when we bring in the darkest shade. All right, and I'll show you what happened with the before and after, and this is how you replace your lines. This is how we replace lines. This is the technique. You erase the line with the edge, so you create an edge between two major shades that I just blocked in, and you make it reach, gradually reaching the end of that. And this kind of connects into this inner corner right here. And now we've sculpted. We're sculpting. We're not depending on the line. We've hidden the line, and we've started sculpting. So all that really needs to happen, it really just depends how extreme the fold is, but I usually just end it off with one tiny little line at the very deepest part of that fold. It's not even visible. It's not even a line, and then I just blend it away, just to make sure that we've reached the deepest part of that valley, because we have considered the highest part of that hill. So we're going to have to, match the contrast. Any questions? Does anyone have any questions? If you have asked a question and I missed it because I've just been looking at the screen, please ask it again. Don't worry about repeating yourself. Also, please remember, don't paint in every single brow hair. It's detail relief, detail relief. So give us some brow hairs, the rest hide them. We don't need to see every single one to believe that it's an eyebrow. We will believe it's an eyebrow if you just give us some hairs here and there. Mostly the beginning hairs right here. Alright, we don't need to see the entire scope of like a zoom in, but we're still far away of every single hair. Okay. So this feels a lot more sculpted. The next issue is that these two are not on the same level. So all you have to do is remember that if one area is higher than the other, it catches more light. So this is generally so this sticks out further than this, not in my diagram, well, in this one. This sticks out further than this. So this needs to be more shadowed, and I'll show you in a second, there needs to be a cast shadow. So I'm actually going to zoom out and do this zoomed out. I'm way too zoomed in. So this needs to be sculpted a little more. A little bit of highlight right here. If there's makeup for the eyebrow to enhance definition, how would that work? It's just extra shadows. You just bring in extra shades. You drop the value deeper. And like I always say, please everyone write this back to me. The only way something gets darker than it can, darker than its natural shade, the only way something can get darker than its natural shade is by external pigmentation. That's the only way. So if you bring in eyebrows and the eyebrows are just that dark, then that's what happens. The eyebrows just have to be that dark. So I'm trying to match the highlight, the line of the light across the eye. I'm going to sculpt the eyeball a little bit more on either side. And we'll see what happened with the before and after. Remember, the eyeball is still a ball. It needs a little bit more shade to it on either side of it. This lip bit, so hill, valley, hill, valley, hill, valley, right under the ball of the eye. I'll do that in a sec. And then valley for the whole ball. So there's a valley down here. There's a cast shadow here. There's a cast shadow right across here, right under this. So there's a line before that highlight starts. And then there's the diffuse. So this diffuses the bottom of the eyeball right here, the lower lid, and right here. Right along this shadow. Need to make it a little darker. Do you guys want to hear OC purring? One sec. I'm sorry, I just had to share that. She purrs so much when she's beside me. Sweetheart. Okay. So, sorry, distraction. Just a little bit of diffuse here and diffuse here. Sorry, the mic was all over the place. So let's look at the before and after. And this is just from, actually I need to do a little bit more. This is just from replacing that line successfully. Select. So I'm going to retrace that crease again. And it's not really a crease because it's pretty low. Just using the lasso tool, I'm going to slowly introduce that sort of hooded eye crease right there. Best distraction ever, I know. Ain't it though? And oops. Continuing there. Just darkening it a little bit extra, as if it was a hood. Naturally, a hood would be decreased. If it was a hooded eye, so this eye is very hooded, it would be decreased. It would be lowered all the way down here. That's when it really feels hooded. So before, after. So your line was high. So it felt more like actually a crease, like this eye, than a hooded eye. But because you threw that color in, that light in, right there, that's what started the ball rolling. Okay, so I'm going to just erase it a little bit. Erase away. And that's it. Kind of looks like Mila Jovovich, or whatever, however you say your name's eyes. Before, after. So hooded eyes stick out, they catch light, and they're really low close to the eye. And whenever you have to draw Asian eyes, what happens is the crease is really high because it's at the top of the ball of the eye, and then you've got the lids. But with Asian eyes, you've got the lids, but the crease is way down here. And you've got really bulgy upper and lower eyelid, and then this gets decreased. Alright, so you've got fat, fat. The key, though, to make an eye really look hooded, if you're into drawing hooded eyes, I love drawing hooded eyes. They're so unbelievably beautiful. They've just got so much more form happening on them than a typical crease. Maybe because I have a crease, so I'm just all bored of my eyes, but remember that the eyelid, the actual crease line, the base of the crease is really low. Okay, I'm just going to throw a couple more shades in there and then I'll be done. I'm going to erase this monster that I drew. Looks like a, I don't even know what. Okay, lower that. Oops. Oops. And just slowly receding into the shadow. And you do this in levels, so I don't have time, but I would continue sculpting this way, way more. His eyes really carry the image a lot. Okay, so any questions? Oops. Before, after. We're sculpting more than we're outlining. We're here, you're outlining. We've connected the lights up into the brows. The brows are now part of that whole system. Where before, the brows were just floating in their own space. They're not affected by the universal light that's sculpting around this eye. The eyebrow is a direct part of the big on switch on the forehead. And then it's a continuous step ladder. It's a one. So we've got, actually this is an elevation, so never mind. Hill, valley. So hill, really rounded stairs, but just imagine it like this. Hill, valley, hill, valley, hill, valley. So it's like stairs, right? As long as you think of them as elevations like that, then you'll never really fall into that trap of I'm really good, but I'm just not that good yet, and I don't know what to do to become that good. As long as you think about sculpting there, it defeated me. It caught up with me. I couldn't fight it back anymore. Turned into a hiccup. But yeah, it as long as you remember rotation and all of those really key fundamentals, and they're just because they're basics does not mean that they're simple. All right, basic and simple are not synonymous in this case. They are not. That simple means that it's easy. It's an easy task. Basic in this case mean there are basic rules. They are the rules that underlie all of the other rules, all the other details. They're the rules that come first. And what's high and what's low changes shades. That's the core fundamental. If you want me to give it a sort of a description, what's high has highlights, what's low has shades. If we just remember that, that happens even on the particulars and the microscopic level, that we have shades like that, and that light is that small and can illuminate smaller objects. It's not just about the big lights on the big face, it's about the small lights on the small eyes as well. Okay? Do we have to learn to draw everything realistic like a reference, like the lips and the nose? I recommend working your hardest and practicing your hardest if you want to be a portrait artist, to work your best on the eye. That's what you should really be investing a lot of time in. The nose is very easy to do, in my opinion anyway, because you just have to remember there's a shadow that comes off the bottom of it, and there's no side shadows for the bridge, and then there's a light on the top of the bridge. As long as you remember to do that, I think you're going to be fine. For lips, like I say in my videos, they're not like the eyes or the nose because they're just big mushy muscle. And as long as you blend like that and realize they're also valleys and hills, it's very easy. The lips and the nose aren't really an intricate joint that needs constant lubrication like the eyes. The eyes are like a more intricate thing to draw, so it's going to be more difficult to draw. So what's everyone saying? Oh, she probably thinks her owner is crazy and likes to talk to herself. Yeah, I think so. um, Mila Disrudich. So you have to learn to draw everything. What about pupil placement? Where the pupils are placed right now. Oh, see, you can't touch the mouse. No. Where the pupils are right now is a little bit off. When an eye looks forward, there's a little bit of white under the eye right here. But it could just be because she's squinting. She really does look like she's squinting. It's kind of like the Mila Jovovich eye. She always looks like she's squinting. But all you really have to do is make sure it's a square circle, so it's perfect. Perfect circle. And that the top of it really is, it's not going to just illuminate itself. So the top right here also has a shadow to it halfway through. So it's got a half shadow to it. Unless like the photograph's been tampered with and there's like crazy exposure and there's like 4 light sources in the studio revealing it, but usually the top half of the entire eye here is in shadow. And if the eye is looking forward, usually there's white under it. As for the waterline, it's another step on the ladder, so don't throw a line there, just throw an edge. We just need edges that are not blended. That's how you replace a line. Okay? That's all I really have to say about pupil placement. Remember that if you are drawing 2 eyes, so this is the trick. This is the problem. When we study eye by eye, so we study just, 1 eye today, 1 eye tomorrow, we won't know how to make them work together. Eyes cross when they're looking at something in the foreground. When they're spaced out, eyes are a little bit more distant from each other. You also need to figure out when you're drawing both eyes the proper distance between both eyes where the eye is still beautiful. So you might, if you're drawing a single eye every time and you think, oh, now I'm good at eyes. That's not how it works. You have to know how to space them. You have to know about tilt, the way the eye is tilting down. That's a big part of beauty. So, God, I scribble everywhere. Thank God I don't have a chalkboard. Oopsie. So when you're drawing an eye by itself, you won't experience what it means to have 2 eyes that are tilting down, the distance between both eyes, the way the pupils work together to look like they're actually looking at something. Let's see. You know when a cat tips over like a tipping 16-wheeler? She just did that on the keyboard. Right? So remember all of that stuff. Don't always just draw an eye by itself. Sometimes you have to draw an eye together with another eye, so you know about pupil placement a little bit more. There's a lot to do. I mean, it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it, but there's a lot to think about. Before, after. So you didn't draw an eyelid. The placement of the pupil was a little bit sketched out. You drew every single individual eyelash. You drew every single individual hairline. There was a little bit of relief, which is nice right here. And you see how useless the eyelashes are. They're not supposed to carry it. Do not use eyelashes to render your eyes for you. It's not going to work. Trust me, it's not going to work. You have to forget about your lines, forget about anime years, forget about Sailor Moon, forget about all the stuff that started you drawing. That's what started me drawing. Sailor Moon and card captors. But the lash is not going to carry it. What you imagine in your head, the symbol in your mind for an eye is not going to help you draw an eye better. That's not what makes you draw better. It's not the memory, it's the reference and what you memorized of the reference, okay? The pupil is also recessed in the cornea. Yeah, it is. It's like a bowl that's open. So in a 3/4 view, You have to draw an eye in three-quarter view. Like I said in the beginning of this video, you have to, if you want to get better at drawing eyes, you have to test your ability to rotate eyes. If the function is still preserved in the eye rotation, you've done it successfully. If it looks weird and off, you need to study it a little bit more. Doing the eye in three-quarter view makes you draw the sort of research a little bit better and fill your visual library up with more knowledge about what happens to the pupil and when pupils are both looking at an object in the foreground in three-quarter view. Really, really tricky. Lots of angles to memorize. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.